Hey guys, Connor from Rock Pokemon here, back at you with another Market Monday. Thought I'd do a little bit of just off the cuff kind of mid-year review, kind of recap where we're at, what we've seen, and where I think we're headed. So I'm going to keep it simple, high level, just kind of my thoughts on the market. So we are undoubtedly in a time in Pokemon where we have seen significant price retraces. I personally think that's super healthy for this market because the types of prices we were seeing on items was getting absolutely ridiculous. And we could have gone into a scenario where that price appreciation kept extending in such a ridiculous fashion that we then just went into this catastrophic free fall. Where the market would have just completely imploded from a secondary standpoint. Luckily, what we saw is kind of some undulation, right? Some kind of almost like double dip recessions where we saw prices, pull back and then kind of move up again and then pull back once again. And now we've kind of gotten into this area where prices continue to fall, or maybe even in some areas stabilize at a much lower level, but still ridiculous year-over-year growth, right? So where does that leave us going from here? Well, prices on a lot of items are still pretty insane. You have a lot of people, all the things that were telegraphed about this, right? You have people spending money on travel, spending money on leisure activities, getting together with their friends. They're not sitting on their computer on Friday night, digging through eBay listings, competing against 500 other people for your card, right? So we've seen this area where there's, certainly less demand, increasing supply, both from cards coming back from grading when you talk about single cards, not to mention people with weak hands, right, who really just at the end of the day got into this hobby, didn't know what was happening, bought into some hype. Now they're left with some fairly illiquid items that they probably paid 2 to 5 to 10 times what they're actually worth or will be worth in the long term. And now, they need money to do things or pay for bills or what have you. So we have this scenario where you are, getting this unwind of purchases made at peak valuations and people taking a bath on certain items. So, for long-term collectors and even, quote unquote, long-term investors for certain specific parts of the market, I think that starts to create some buying opportunity. I think that by and large, things are still, highly elevated compared to where they probably should be. I think we've developed into this state where people are starting to understand, how common some items are. You start to hear more and more people and influencers talking about pop reports or talking down modern a little bit or tapering the way they speak about modern, which is interesting. Vintage is a whole nother story because there's very, strong collectors of the unlimited market. There's strong, first edition shadowless. It's a bit of a different market, I'd say. But yeah, you're basically seeing, people kind of temper their price expectations, or maybe talk a little less about numbers around modern product. You've got these things coupled with the fact that, PSA, which is, kind of the favorite grading company of today, is, going to be announcing probably something soon. Given that they said they would reopen or begin to reopen in some fashion beginning July 1. Don't hold me to it. My thoughts are what we'll probably see is no card graded below $50 in cost. But I don't think that'll be off the get-go. I think they'll kind of roll back and reopen some of the higher tiers, and then we'll see maybe quarterly specials or promotions or what have you. And then, maybe over the period of a year to 2 years, when we see some of this hype continue to fall, they reopen some of those lower service levels, right? Because simple, supply demand economics if they can grade 10 cards for $50 instead of 50 cards for $10, they're going to do that pretty much as long as they can until the supply demand mechanics are no longer in their favor and they have to reopen those lower service levels and get those customers back in the fold, right, who are willing to pay $10 a card but not 50, right? So we've got that, and then what does that do for the graded card market, and how does that affect slabs that are out there now, because we understand it's going to be longer until you can basically get a graded card at a certain level for a lower price, right? So that's an interesting piece of it. And then you've got 25th anniversary set, right? Just announced. A lot of hype and hubbubaloo about it. I think some people are less excited, some people more. We'll have to wait and see how that fleshes out. Not to mention you've got Evolving Skies in between now and then. Got some pretty cool stuff coming out of Japan for 25th anniversary set as well. We're just coming off of EV Heroes, which was seemingly a fantastic success, and people have loved it. So, but all that's with the backdrop of the cyclicality, seasonality of these markets, right? As we get back into the fall and the winter after the summer is over, people spend more time inside, they're on their computer more, they're spending less money, going out to specific, events or doing travel that they might during the summer. So there's always some seasonality to it. But what I can tell you is that the price retraces for this market, I think, are super healthy, are much needed. I think that as a collector and investor, whichever you align yourself with, or if you're both or whatever, start to just continue really focusing on like what the rarest parts of the market are, and items you really want to hold for the long term, and continue to evaluate where those price points have fallen to. If you think they could move more, if you don't, what does the supply and demand look like on some of those specific longer term, highly sought after items. Something I think I'm seeing is that I think we're starting to get some of the like really high end part of the market, like PSA 10 of much lower population cards, and lower population because they're actually like rare and scarce, like that both the condition existing out there in a potential 10 condition is very low, and also or the number of that card in the supply just in general is low when it comes to like raw or even the graded market versus what's potentially left raw, right? So I think what we're seeing is the ability for people to start to kind of bring things into their forever hands, because you have collectors who have been buying and selling through all of this, right? And what they've probably done is, sold off things that are not priorities into hype if they were smart. And then they can still continue to buy the things they need for their long-term collections, right? I've done some of this. I'm no PSA registry guy, but I know people who, are going for master sets who, this is the game now, right? This is, where we are with these prices, and we don't know where it's going to go. But I think another thing too is that people are just generally impatient. And I would encourage you to play the long game with this hobby. What we've seen the last year is just unbelievable. Like, this just doesn't happen in the collectibles market. It just doesn't. And, I think that this is going to continue to be just like a really exciting hobby to be a part of. I absolutely love Pokemon. It's crazy what we've gone through the past, 12 to 15 months in the hobby. I think that Pokemon as an IP is very strong. I'm looking forward to more coming out around the anime and movies and video games, and and then obviously with the trading card game, and having seen as of late that there seems to be much more availability of supply for modern new product. I think part of that is, supply chains healing, throughout the United States and world, post pandemic. And then also, not just kind of the full supply chains themselves, but very acute parts of it. So for example, like, you can't just build a new factory overnight for print production, right? But, as restrictions on employee numbers and spacing ease, that allows you to run more shifts and print more products. So I think that, the crucial thing of getting cards into hands of a next generation of collectors is happening. And we're seeing, the scalpers start to lose to the increased supply of the Pokemon company. Now we'll see what happens with 25th anniversary, right? Because some of these recent sets, like a Chilling Reign, where it was basically just printed to demand, versus 25th anniversary, which will probably, of course, it's probably already all printed, but we'll see how many waves, how many additional printings they do, what other modern sets they start to reprint. But all in all, I think when I think about the market and where we've come and, where the hobby is today, I'm really excited about the increased amount of events that are happening. I'm really excited to get together more and more with other collectors that I've met online over the past couple years, and that I still haven't gotten to meet in person, or have only met once or twice in person. I'm excited to go to some of these bigger events. Obviously, Collecticon was this past weekend. I couldn't go because of a conflict, but I know more events will come up soon. And then, I'm super excited for enjoying the 25th anniversary set, and, just kind of seeing where the hobby continues to go over the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be really, really fun. And I think what's good is we're starting to get some people, weeded out, who were taking advantage of this situation from a market dynamic standpoint, who aren't really people who enjoy the hobby, who just jump from thing to thing, wherever they can make a quick buck, and I think we're starting to get some of that weeded out because we've seen these nice retracements. I wouldn't be concerned at all if we saw more continued weakness over, the next 6 to 12 months. I mean, you're going to get undulations, I think. You never know what influencer throws out another event or a box break or what have you. But I think people are just a little tired of the hype. And I think what you're seeing is kind of a consolidation into, people that really enjoy this hobby, sticking to their networks, sticking to their guns, really enjoying, their communities, and living their lives too. I mean, there's so much more when it comes to life than just cardboard. I'm a very non-materialistic person. I really enjoy experiences and travel and concerts and all these things. I would much rather spend my time, in community with people I love than, sitting at home scouring eBay listings on Friday or Saturday night, right? So there's a give and take, and there's a balance there. And I think, as the world shifts into whatever this post-pandemic, situation is going to look like, I think people are dying for that interaction. And while that pulls some people away from kind of this online aspect of the hobby, I think it's going to be really great for the in-person community, because that's what really strengthens the hobby, especially when you talk about the playability, right? People seem to never talk about the actual trading card game players, but next year for Worlds in London, it's gonna be insane. It's gonna be it's just gonna be so much fun, and I really hope to go. So all in all, guys, really am excited for what's to come in the hobby. I think that this retrace, and if you want to call it a bear market, whatever, is super healthy. And again, I just encourage you guys, seek community, collect what you love, and just make smart decisions. So Connor with Rock Pokemon, I hope y'all have a great week and a great 4th of July weekend. Bye-bye.